Welcome to the Retail Media Insights podcast series, where we will take a deep dive into the fast changing retail media ecosystem. Together, we will delve into new technologies, innovative strategies, and essential mental models that will make us smarter about this space. We will hear perspectives from retail ad tech companies, retail media networks, and advertisers. I'm your host, Keshav, and you can follow my perspectives on retail media through my Retail Media Insights newsletter. My guest for this episode is Nick Henthorn. Nick is the SVP of Sales for the UK and Europe for InfoSum. Previously, he was the Chief Revenue Officer at Outra. Nick gained a wealth of experience in the data monetization space at Telefonica, leading the Data Insights and Smart Steps team over 4 years. Prior to that, he held sales leadership roles in the CRM automation space. In this episode, we discuss topics such as InfoSum's proposition and their USP, what decentralized clean rooms mean, clean room adoption across multiple functions within an organization, InfoSum's measurement solutions, InfoSum's unique partnership with ITV and Channel4, factors that retailers and brands should assess when deciding a clean room, and a lot more. So let's get to it. Hi, Nick. Welcome to the Retail Media Insights podcast. I finally have you.
Kesha, thank you. And sorry this has been such a long time coming with a combination of lots of flights and some delightful illnesses in the mix. So delighted to be here. Very much looking forward to chatting to you today.
No worries. I'm very excited. I'm glad you've recovered. You've worked across various sectors, including telco, media, finance, gaming, retail, and utilities. In each of these industries, you're involved in creating and selling data or technology solutions. What has been your favorite industry and why?
Honestly, I've really enjoyed every industry I've worked in. Certain industries, financial services space, telco, etc., have challenges around further regulations, and that creates sort of other thought processes in terms of how they manage data, etc. And then there are other organizations that just have huge scale of data, which makes them really interesting. So someone like the gaming space, on that scale front, telco was particularly fun. So I was working for Telefonica and we were monetizing their data. So it was taking huge amounts of information on web and app, location, etc., and then surfacing it at a level that respected the consumer's privacy. And actually, interesting, that was probably my first real lean into the world of the balance of privacy and performance. But I think if you ask for the absolute favorite, advertising's the newest to me. It's fast paced, the landscape's constantly evolving, and that just makes it exciting. So, yeah, fast paced people, ever changing landscape, it's got to be media and advertising for me.
Fascinating. Yes, you are at InfoSum now. You're the SVP for sales in Europe. How did InfoSum start? What problem was it trying to tackle? And what solution it provides today?
So, business was founded back in 2016, and it was really founded on the premise that there was just too much data being shared around the marketplace to enable more targeted advertising. It was founded by Nick with a premise that we've got to find a better way to do this. He'd clearly got an idea in his head. I wasn't part of the business at the time. And he set about building the world's first decentralized data matching solution. Now, decentralized is a theme that you'll hear again on this podcast today, but the idea that you can match data sets together without them being commingled in the middle. Because once you commingle data, once both parties give someone else the data to match together, that other party's got control of the data. So the conundrum was, how do we match data together without it being centralized? And it took Nick and a large development team 3 years to build a platform, which we launched in 2019 as a data collaboration platform. We took it to the media owners first, so the likes of the Channel4s of the world, who adopted it and then made it part of their product suite to then attract advertisers to come and be able to deliver targeted campaigns without giving their data to Channel4 or vice versa. So that allowed us to then see this large-scale brand adoption, which then led to another pillar, the data partners. So the traditional data partners, so the likes of Experian, etc., wanting to act as enhancers to that in the ecosystem. And then more recently, the adoption by the retail media partners. So All this was going on, and the market was waking up to this concept of data collaboration. And there was the secure data clean room. The tag was born as such. So where does that leave us now? We're arguably the world's leading data collaboration platform, the only secure data clean room that basically allows everyone to do everything in a decentralized way, working with now just shy of 100 clients who use us for 4 core things within the advertising space. One, to understand insights. So, what can I learn about my customers that I don't already know by partnering with someone else who's got insights on my customers? Number 2, planning. How can I more effectively spend my media budgets if I can understand what sort of media my customers consume where? The third pillar is activation, the ability to target a segment or suppress a segment of your customers across another media owner's site. And then the fourth pillar, which wraps the whole thing together, is the ability to measure, not just to get insights, to plan, to activate, but then measure the success of those campaigns. So they're the 4 core use cases we see today.
All right. You spoke about decentralized being one of your USPs. Can you explain what that means under the hood?
So I need to be careful with my specific vernacular on that. So we were the only. There are more coming into market who can offer similar things, but the similar needs to be broken down into detail. Now, the real devil in detail here is, does data get commingled at any point in running a query? So I'm a bank and I've got my premier customers, and I want to know how many of those premier customers could be identified on a CTV platform. If the route to getting the insight there is that the 2 data sets, the premier customer segment and the CTV viewer universe, get matched together at any point, the data has been centralized. And any solution that even temporarily does that to surface an insight, in our view, isn't a decentralized data clean room. Now, the way we get around that is via obviously our patents. I can go into some detail on it, but the ability to effectively run one-way queries on a heavily encrypted model. So any query that's run is effectively taking identifiers at a highly pseudonymized state and then allowing the other partners, bunker, as we call them, to one-way test that model. So we're never exposing any of the pseudonymized data from one party to the other to get to the answer. So pseudonymization isn't the answer. It's part of our solution that further protect the partners, but actually it's the ability to do the one-way testing, which ensures there's never a data transfer between the two of them, and there's never centralization of data in the middle.
Understood. I think you've given a very comprehensive yet precise answer on how this works under the hood. So thanks for that, Nick. I would love to understand, maybe if you have 1 or 2 case studies on how some of your clients are using the solutions, and more importantly, like what's been the impact for those clients.
Sure. So let's look at 2 core areas, shall we? Should we look at retail media, and let's look at a brand? So from a brand's perspective, one is a really nice example of a brand working with a media owner to acquire new customers, but actually A/B testing that against their traditional methodology, which was cookie-based targeting. So Renault worked with Axel Springer in Germany, with Analect, obviously involved as their agency, to do just that. Obviously facilitated by everything we've just described, so no sharing of data. The outcome of which was that the first-party led modeling produced an 18% increase in conversion rate and a 9% lower cost per click. Now, why I love this case study, it's proving out to an advertiser that they're going to have to find a new solution outside of third-party cookies. Not only is there an alternative solution, but the alternative solution can be more performant, which is obviously hugely exciting for all involved. So I personally really love that case study. Another one in brand space would be Deliveroo working with Channel4. Deliveroo, in this example, though, weren't looking to target their own customers. They were looking to identify new ones. And the primary premise of that was to then suppress their existing customers. And by suppressing their existing customers, Channel4 then ran a campaign, built a control cell before running that campaign. And through our platform, you can compare exposed and control data to outcome data. And from an acquisition perspective, it drove a 20% increase in new registrations on the cell exposed versus cell controlled. So really good example of proving out the incrementality of using your first party data in this case to suppress it to drive a more effective acquisition campaign. And then I suppose we said we'd talk retail media as well. I'll talk at a general level with one with ITV Matchmaker. ITV have built a new product that they've brought to market, which is effectively enabling offsite targeting and measurement for CPGs by leveraging the partnerships they've now got in place with Boots and with dunnhumby. So if you're a CPG and you're data poor and you've traditionally used cookie-based targeting, you're suddenly trying to find a new way to do things. ITV, in partnership with dunnhumby and Boots, have come to the market with a solution that allows a CPG to target a segment of customers who have got a clearly defined interest in their product or a competitor's product or a segment of people who buy, for example, dishwasher tablets, to allow ITV to target those individuals and then really importantly allow them to measure the impact by utilizing data from the likes of Boots or dunnhumby and then partnering it with CTV. You're going to get marketing performance, and it's proving itself again and again.
Wonderful. You've actually given examples into very interesting areas, because if you think about companies that hold a lot of first party data, there are at least two types of customers within that company that you could be speaking to, right? One is the marketing function. And your first two examples are more internal marketing functions. And the second is the retail media or data monetization organization. Which function typically kicks off the partnership? And do you see clients that only have one function using the solution and not the other? And if so, why does that happen?
That's an absolutely brilliant question. And it doesn't just lend itself to retail media partners. Clearly, it lends itself to anyone. Because as we're finding now, brands are custodians of data on behalf of their customers. And that data itself could be valuable to someone else. So brands can be data partners. More and more brands have got their own media. And this is where you start to see the blurred lines. Are you a media owner? Are you a data partner? Are you a brand? Or are you all three? If you picked on Tesco dunnhumby, that's a great example of being all three. They have their own media estate, they have comprehensive data to be a partner, and they're also a brand. In reality, I'd say typically organizations will go first with what they're best known for. So someone like a Channel4 started working with us as a media owner. Now they also work with us as a brand. Our relationship with Tesco dunnhumby started out very much from a retail media perspective, but they also run brand activity. Boots, on the other hand, started out as a brand and now working as a media owner. You'll see another big grocer that we work with going through that similar journey. And if I look to Europe and beyond, we see similar things there. Actually, one of our major retail media partners in Europe actually started out with us as a brand. It all depends on where they are as an organization in terms of their maturity in their retail media propositions. At the end of the day, we deliver value to both, and our commercial structures allow them to do both things with us without having to invest more into us.
Yeah, definitely a stronger business case if multiple functions use the solution. The other aspect I wanted to touch a bit about is in regards to identity solutions. InfoSum does not have its identity solution, but you allow clients to use various identity solutions that are out there in the market today. How commonly clients use an identity partner to improve match rates? And two, for the retail industry, which are the more commonly used identity partners?
We don't have an identity solution because we are not an owner of data. So that's a really important statement. We're the infrastructure that enables the match between multiple parties. If you're working bilaterally, just partner to partner, they can utilize more than one identity to try and create a match. So if you give your example there that you've got different emails for different parties. So if both parties have multiple versions of me, multiple emails associated, or indeed other identities, then the platform will seek to find the match between me and me in different bunkers based on those multiple identities. So there's optimization there. You're absolutely right. We do provide a facility to bridge identity. So within the UI, you just drop in, if you've got permission to work with them, of course, drop in an identity partner and they can bridge identity. And one of the real advantages of that approach is that actually you get to see what the increment is. Say a brand and a media owner working together and they get a match rate of 12%. You drop an identity partner in, it goes up to 17%. You know what the increment is immediately, which is obviously of value, and that's before you actually have to do anything commercial together. If you talk about different markets now, that's very much adopted in some of our markets. And it tends to be the markets where it's a lot easier to have a great big identity spine in play. For example, America. So we work with multiple identity partners in the US because naturally the availability is there. We do within the European markets have partners who've got identity, but as you know from organizations who focus on identity, it's getting smaller and smaller. And the reality is that's really down to the fact that you've got to have absolute confidence in the provenance of your data in the first place to be able to offer that service to market. So the likes of the telcos, where they've got permission, we do work with the telco, they can offer bridging. But the scale of the consented universes to offer that bridging might not actually match the incremental value of doing so in the first place. In reality, in Europe, what we're seeing is that email is becoming the identity that people are choosing as their primary match.
That's interesting. So, when your clients collaborate with each other with data stored in their respective bunkers, they commonly use the InfoSum platform to match customers across their data sets based on customer email addresses as an identifier, instead of relying on third party identity solutions. Great. Nick, now let's move to one of your other solutions, measurement. Does InfoSum provide pre-built measurement models, or you provide the platform to give maximum flexibility for brands or users to model their version of measurement?
Okay, another great question. So, as stands right now, our platform is underpinned by a slightly limited version of SQL logic because of privacy protection, but it's enabling parties to, as we gave an example earlier, to compare control versus exposed versus outcome data in a very way. Or indeed, compare expose and control to a survey partner to enable things like brand uplift studies. We always think about this in terms of pure quant, but actually there's a big qual part to this as well because a lot of it's about brand. So yes, you consider that the two core metrics really are: did people who see it did do more with us, or did people who see it have a better experience with us? They're the two core measurements. The platform's therefore delivering that based on those queries, based on the drag and drop interface. And whilst the results are fantastic, we do have more and more clients wanting to be able to do more and more advanced analytics on the relationship between exposed, controlled, and outcome, going really into some of the detail that, frankly, our platform hasn't got the capability to deliver. And that's purely down to the fact that it's SQL based as opposed to, a more advanced data science platform. But we are evolving our platform and will be shortly launching something rather exciting that will help organizations plug in their own data science applications to enable much, much deeper analytics.
Wow. I wonder whether we should have postponed the podcast so that you could tell us more about this development. I can't have this podcast and not ask you about your partnership with UK's two big CTV channels, ITV and Channel 4. Can you tell us a bit more about this partnership?
Let's treat them both separately. We've been partnered with Channel 4 since 2019 when they went out to seek a matching engine that could allow them to match to brand data to deliver a product in the realms of a Sky Ad Smart type proposition. They went through a fairly formal process to identify a partner and decided to work with InfoSum. What's really interesting with what they then did and what we've seen other media partners do is create a product. So this wasn't let's go and work together to sell InfoSum. InfoSum's irrelevant in this, in the sense that actually brand match is the product. They offer brand match to the market, to the agencies, to their brands, to enable them to do far more intelligent things by bringing their first party data to play. We're the powered by bit. We're the intel inside. We're enabling them to do that in a privacy safe way. And not soon after, we saw ITV take a similar approach. So effectively, ITV have got ITV Match and Matchmaker, as I mentioned earlier, and they are products that are effectively powered by InfoSum. So we sit there as the connective tissue between them and the brands, and we work very closely with them to support them when they want to bring new brands on.
Nick, can you tell us? So, let's say I'm a retailer and I already have a data collaboration partnership with one of the other providers. Does that mean I cannot collaborate on a campaign with ITV because I do not have my data with InfoSum?
That's a great question, and we've had this before. So we've had a major retailer who's utilizing another partner for a lot of open web activations. And in those examples, it's just simply a case of then connecting that solution to ours and us then connecting to ITV. And we've seen this a few times where partners will actually have that through. So we're not going to sit here and say we're the only solution. Partners utilize another clean room for lots of activities and then just have us as a bolt on and feed data into our platform, clearly direct from source, because we want it from the control, not from the other clean room, to activate on those channels.
So they will then form a partnership with you as well. Okay. There are a few clean room providers in this space. What would you say are InfoSum's key points of difference?
It's a really hard one to answer because everyone positions in different ways, and there's lots of organisations who've now put their hands up to say they are clean rooms. We're seeing CDPs saying we can do clean room as well, and naturally we've got the tech vendors coming into place with their clean room offerings. It's very much a high growth area, similar to what we saw with CDPs a few years ago. I think there's a few things you can really look out for, and one of them's a theme we've talked about already today, which is decentralized. Is data kept separate as part of a query process? And then there's different categories. Let's just talk about the different categories of clean rooms. There's the pure play clean rooms. There's then the tech vendors building their solutions. There's arguably what you'd call the centralized clean rooms, where you give them data and they bring it together. And then you've got this other breed, which is the UI layers that sit across other clean rooms. It does make for four very distinct categories there. So pure play, centralized, tech, and then enablement. So it's not easy, when you're at Ricardo, for someone to look at that and go, well, where do I go? I think the only thing I can say is engage the organizations, talk to them all individually. If you look at our position, we tick the box as decentralized. We are privacy by design. We built this in 2016 with a mind to privacy preserving. So we've got that from the ground up, which actually includes things like we're error proof. Now, I don't mean that we never get a bug, right? Because every platform ever had a bug at some point. Error proof means that someone couldn't have a bad day, write the wrong script, and unearth personal data. And it's those sorts of questions that organizations, when they're engaging clean room partners, need to ask. How is this privacy by design, or is it reverse engineered on top of something else? And really get into the weeds on what the process is. We'll always be exceptionally clear in our collateral, both sales collateral, but also our legal collateral, on what's happening underneath the hood of InfoSum. So ask those same questions of the other partners. I think the last thing is really, as a differentiator, is the marketplace itself. So as I touched on earlier, we've been doing this since 2019 under the guise of collaboration platform. And that means that we've got scaled partners across Europe, the US, and now Asia Pacific. It really means that if you're a brand and you want to do something with us, you can join day one and there's partners there you can derive value from. You're not having to go out and find a partner and get them onto a clean room too. So your path to value is much, much faster because of that ecosystem.
Got it. From a retailer perspective, what would you say are like the top 5 factors they are thinking of?
We're going to get a similar answer here because the retailers are effectively looking at very similar solutions to anyone else who's looking at a clean room. So centralization is critical. I guess permissions comes into this really quite strongly as well. So what controls do you have in place to ensure that your valuable data is only being, even at an aggregate level, accessed by people you want it to be accessed by? CPGs, as we know, have started to build up more and more first-party data themselves. If they want to collaborate with a retailer, the retailer should be in absolute control of deciding which ones they want to collaborate with and to what value. And then I suppose the other thing you'd really want to consider is how future-proofed is that solution? So clearly we've talked quite a lot already about email, and we've talked about the future of matching. Does the solution you're looking at focus on cookies still for matching in a world where those cookies are going away? Is it prepared for a world of the cookieless future? Actually, I'm going to add another one to the end if that's okay. We've already talked about the marriage of CTV and retail. Does the clean room have, and I'm not just talking about the UK here, but I'm talking about the European markets, partners we work with there. Does the clean room partner already have established CTV relationships, just because of the sheer power of that offering to market. So I'd definitely be, if I was a retailer now, looking at not just the technology and its privacy preserving elements and its control preserving elements, but also the ecosystem they have.
Great. And then my last question to you, Nick. When you speak to marketing functions as well as retail media network today, what are the common challenges you hear from them when it comes to clean room adoption?
This is a great question because it covers so many different facets. But I suppose if we just look at breaking it down a little bit, I think the first area of challenge would really be around the maturity they have with their own first party data strategy. If you're looking at a clean room as a retailer, first things first, you need to make sure that you've got your consents in place, or at least a strategy to have consents in place with the consumers. There's no point going into a world of buying technologies to enable offsite and developing partnerships, etc., if you haven't got that trusted relationship with your customer already. And I think as part of that privacy-based consideration, it's also making sure that they have thought about the legal ramifications of working with, for example, a CTV partner. They will have to have paperwork between the two of them. Scale's really important as well when we look at the first party data strategy. We've talked about it already, but they need to have captured a substantial enough scale of first party data for it to be valuable to the CPGs. Take a UK example, because all population volumes are different. If the target segment for soft drink buyers was 10,000 people, is that really a scale of value enough for a Coca-Cola? And I continue on the theme with the sort of the first party data strategy. There is still this element that says it just feels harder than using cookies, because it is. Because you are having to adopt a new technology, having to adopt a new methodology around how you work. And I think organizations overcoming that mental barrier that it's a bit harder, it is a challenge in itself. It's obviously, as we've proven, a challenge well worth taking on, but it's one for consideration. On a wider basis, start to think about the value as well. So start to understand how much it'd be worth, because putting a number on it by engaging the market will help them obviously build their teams to succeed, because teams are critical. You've worked on this side at Ocado. You know that you built a fantastic team there. Without that fantastic team there, you've got a retailer. To really transition to a retail media proposition and have a clean room for offsite, you need that maturity within your organizational structure. And that's a challenge in itself. At the end of the day, you're asking a retailer who works on fairly small margins to invest into lots of headcount they haven't currently got. The only way you can get to that investment is by proving the value, which is why one of the challenges is we don't know how much it'll be worth until we do it. But it's that classic chicken and egg scenario, which actually they can overcome by engaging the market, by talking to CPGs, by talking to media owners to understand what value they in collaboration could have together and help build that case to build that expertise. And then the final piece for me is just confusion around what each clean room does, how it works, and which one's right for them. And that's where I'll just reiterate again, the only way forward there is for an organization to demystify it, as stands now, is to engage each of the clean room providers and ask difficult questions. Really dig into how it works. Really dig into who it works with. Ask for examples. Ask for client testimonials.
Do retailers do quick proof of concepts to understand value? Is that something that's possible?
We haven't really seen many retailers do proof of concepts for all the things we just discussed. This is a strategic decision. It's not something you're going to jump into lightly, because it's not just a case of buying a clean room. It's formalizing agreements with a media partner. It's agreeing between the two of you who's going to control it, which I didn't touch on actually as one of the previous challenges, but clearly control is a challenge. Who owns the ability to run queries? Who owns the ability? Who leads on the sale? Control's critical. Is it going to be the media owner? Is it going to be the retailer? We see these sort of power struggles within those relationships, because naturally they both want to own it, but one of them has to. And each market's different on that front. We're seeing it certainly in the UK. It seems to be more the media owners who are taking the lead in terms of selling these opportunities to the market, whereas in Europe we're seeing it's actually more the retailers. Because of the the fact they're forging these relationships with the media partners, etc. It's not something people are jumping into lightly, and therefore they're making it part of their first party strategy, part of their retail media strategy, and they're generally looking for longer term relationships with the right data clean room partner.
Got it. Okay. Nick, big thanks to you for joining today and for sharing so many insights across a variety of topics.
Thank you so much for having me.